3 million barrels of oil gone every single day. In less than 72 hours, the global economy faces a supply shock not seen in decades. Iran has moved its forces into position around the Strait of Hormuz. Anti-ship missile batteries are live. Naval mines have been reported in contested waters. 20% of the world's oil supply now hangs by a thread. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what weapons Iran is using, what the United States can do about it, and whether the world economy survives the next 3 days. This did not happen overnight. Tensions in the Persian Gulf have been building for months. Sanctions on Iranian oil exports tightened dramatically in early 2025. Washington cut off Tehran's last remaining revenue channels. Iran's supreme leader warned the world twice. Nobody listened. In February 2025, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, began moving Basij naval units southward. Small, fast attack boats flooded the northern Gulf waters. Satellite imagery from commercial providers showed unusual mining vessel activity near Abu Musa Island. That island sits directly on the main shipping lane. The United States responded by deploying the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group. It entered the Arabian Sea in March. The carrier brought FA-18 Super Hornets, Aegis destroyers, and fast attack submarines, a powerful force, but a reactive one. Meanwhile, Iran activated its Kilo-class submarine fleet. 3 submarines went dark, meaning they disappeared from known tracking positions. That is when the alarm bells truly started ringing at the Pentagon. Iran then made its move on April 3rd. IRGC naval commandos boarded a Panamanian-flagged crude tanker, the Pacific Iris Asterisk, in the middle of the strait. The ship was carrying 2.1 million barrels of Iraqi crude. 43 crew members were taken. The tanker was redirected to Bandar Abbas port under armed escort. Shipping companies panicked immediately. Lloyd's of London suspended war risk insurance for Gulf transit within 6 hours. Without insurance, no tanker captain legally sails. Without tankers, oil stops moving. Here's a twist that almost nobody is reporting. The tanker seizure was not the real operation. It was a distraction. What you're about to hear has not been widely covered in mainstream outlets. Iranian mine-laying operations in the Strait of Hormuz began 11 days before the tanker seizure. The IRGC's Naval Engineering Division deployed an estimated 300 to 400 contact and influence mines. These are not simple World War II relics. Iran's domestically produced EM-52 rocket-propelled mine is a sophisticated weapon. It sits on the seafloor and fires an explosive rocket upward when a ship passes. The EM-52 can defeat many commercial vessel hulls entirely. The narrow choke point of the strait is only 33 kilometers wide at its tightest point. 2 designated traffic lanes, each just 3 kilometers across, handle all inbound and outbound traffic. 300 mines spread across 6 kilometers of shipping lane creates a near impassable obstacle. The US Navy's MCM mine countermeasure vessels are exceptional, but clearing 300 mines safely takes between 14 and 30 days minimum. The world economy does not have 30 days. Now here's what makes the mine problem even worse. Iran has activated its coastal defense missile network along the entire northern Hormuz coastline. The Noor anti-ship missile, Iran's reverse-engineered version of the Chinese C-802, is now deployed at multiple sites. Each Noor missile carries a 165-kilogram warhead and travels at Mach 0.9. Its range is 170 kilometers. That range covers the entire width of the Gulf many times over. Beyond the Noor, Iran has deployed the Khalij Fars, a ballistic anti-ship missile. This weapon is not a cruise missile. It is a modified ballistic missile with a terminal guidance system designed specifically to kill ships. The Khalij Fars travels at hypersonic speeds during its terminal phase. American Aegis destroyers have demonstrated some intercept capability against this weapon. But success rates against saturation attacks, meaning many missiles fired at once, remain deeply concerning to US Navy planners. Iran is believed to have over 200 Khalij Fars missiles stockpiled. A simultaneous launch of even 30 missiles would overwhelm any single carrier strike group's defensive systems. Beyond missiles and mines, Iran has perfected a third layer of attack. The IRGC Navy operates approximately 1,500 small fast attack craft. These are not patrol boats. They are weaponized speedboats carrying rockets, torpedoes, and suicide bomb loads. Iran's doctrine, studied extensively at the US Naval War College, calls for swarming attacks. Hundreds of small boats attack simultaneously from multiple directions. They overwhelm radar tracking systems. They force close-range defensive weapons to engage many targets at once. Each individual boat is cheap and expendable. Collectively, they are terrifying. In 2002, the US military conducted a war game called Millennium Challenge. A simulated Iranian swarm attack sank 16 US Navy vessels in the simulation before the exercise was controversially reset. That was 23 years ago. Iran's swarm capability has only grown since then. The IRGC's first naval district, headquartered at Bandar Abbas, has reportedly doubled its fast attack fleet in the last 4 years. Here is what military analysts often miss. Iran does not need to sink a single American warship to win this confrontation. The economic damage begins the moment shipping companies believe the strait is dangerous. Insurance suspension already happened within 6 hours of the tanker seizure. Brent crude oil prices spiked 14% in the first 24 hours. Saudi Arabia's spare production capacity, roughly 2 million barrels per day, cannot fully replace the 17 to 20 million barrels that transit Hormuz daily. The math is brutal and simple. Every day of closure costs the global economy an estimated $1.6 billion in lost trade value. European refineries that depend on Gulf crude have roughly 14 days of strategic reserve supply. Asian economies, particularly Japan, South Korea, and China, are even more exposed. Japan imports 90% of its oil through the strait. South Korea imports 70% through the same waters. China imports approximately 40% of all its oil through Hormuz. These are the real pressure points. These are the numbers that keep finance ministers awake at night. And now, what we have learned about a classified communication intercepted between IRGC Command and Tehran tells us that this closure was designed to last not days, but weeks. What happens on day 8 is something the markets have not yet priced in. And that revelation is coming in the next section. Let us talk about the weapon that keeps US Navy admirals from sleeping soundly. The Khalij Fars, meaning Persian Gulf in Farsi, entered Iranian service around 2011. It is based on the Fateh 110 short-range ballistic missile. Iran's defense ministry modified the guidance system specifically to track and strike moving ships. The missile has a range of approximately 300 kilometers. It reaches speeds of Mach 3 to Mach 3.5 during its terminal descent phase. To put that in perspective, a rifle bullet travels at roughly Mach 2.5. The Khalij Fars is arriving faster than a bullet when it hits the water surface. Its warhead carries approximately 650 kilograms of high explosives. A single hit on an oil tanker could cause catastrophic flooding and fire simultaneously. A hit on a naval destroyer would likely disable the vessel entirely. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable for the American side. The US Navy's primary ship defense system is the Aegis Combat System, combined with the SM-2 and SM-6 surface-to-air missiles. Against traditional cruise missiles, Aegis has proven highly effective. Against ballistic anti-ship missiles arriving at Mach 3 from a near-vertical angle, the performance data is less reassuring. According to analysis published by the Center for Strategic and Budgetary Assessments, one of Washington's most respected defense think tanks, current Aegis configurations would likely intercept between 60 and 75% of incoming Khalij Fars missiles in a single launch scenario. Against a salvo of 30 missiles fired simultaneously from multiple directions, that intercept rate drops significantly. Iran understands this math perfectly. The mine threat deserves far more attention than it currently receives in public commentary. Iran's EM-52 mine is a rising mine system. It rests on the seafloor at depths up to 100 meters. When the acoustic or magnetic signature of a passing vessel triggers it, it fires a rocket-propelled warhead upward. The warhead detonates either on contact or by proximity fuse. The explosion beneath a ship's keel, the bottom center of the hull, produces a water hammer effect. This vertical pressure wave can break a ship's back, literally splitting the hull. The USS Samuel B. Roberts struck an Iranian mine in 1988 and nearly sank. That mine was a far simpler weapon than the EM-52. Modern Iranian mines are believed to incorporate frequency discrimination systems. This means they can be programmed to ignore certain vessel types like warships and target only large displacement commercial tankers. This is a precise and calculated economic weapon. The US Navy's mine countermeasure capability is led by the MH-53E Sea Dragon helicopter and the Avenger-class MCM ships. These systems are effective but slow. Safe clearance of a large minefield in a contested environment where Iran can relentlessly reseed mines represents one of the most difficult operational challenges in modern naval warfare. According to a finding consistent with what a leaked NATO intelligence assessment described in early 2025, Iran has deployed the Fateh 313, an enhanced precision ballistic missile, at hardened underground launch sites along the Zagros mountain range. These sites are designed to survive initial airstrikes. The Fateh 313 has a circular error probable meaning targeting accuracy of approximately 10 meters at a range of 500 kilometers. With 10-meter accuracy at that distance, Iran can reliably hit specific ships at anchor, specific port facilities, and specific airfields used by coalition forces. The strategic implication is significant. Iran is not defending only the strait, it is holding at risk the entire infrastructure of any military response. UAE port facilities at Fujairah, the Gulf's primary oil export bypass point, are within range. Qatar's Al Udeid Air Base, which hosts the U.S. Air Force's forward command in the region, is within range. Bahrain's naval support activity, headquarters of the U.S. Fifth Fleet, is within range. Iran has constructed a layered deterrence architecture that goes far beyond a simple naval blockade. It is a regional hostage situation measured in missiles, mines, and economic pain. In the less catastrophic outcome, diplomatic channels move faster than military ones. Within 48 hours, Oman, which maintains functional relations with both Tehran and Washington, brokers a back-channel communication. Iran agrees to release the Pacific Iris crew and declares a unilateral 72-hour shipping pause, not a closure. In exchange, the United States agrees to delay its next round of oil sanctions and permits limited humanitarian financial transactions through European banking channels. The mines remain in place but are not activated. Shipping companies remain cautious. Oil prices stabilize at 20 to 25% above pre-crisis levels. Global markets absorb the shock painfully but without collapse. The strait reopens to commercial traffic within 2 weeks after a joint US-UK mine clearance operation. The economic damage totals approximately $40 to $60 billion globally. Painful, but survivable. Now consider what happens if diplomacy fails within the 72-hour window. On hour 73, a U.S. Navy Arleigh Burke-class destroyer attempts to escort a Saudi supertanker through the eastern shipping lane. 3 Iranian fast attack boats approach at high speed. Warning shots are fired. 1 Iranian boat does not stop. The destroyer engages. Within 2 hours, Iran launches 24 Noor anti-ship cruise missiles from coastal batteries. 2 get through Aegis defenses. The destroyer is hit. American sailors die. Everything changes in that moment, and it changes forever. The United States launches immediate retaliatory strikes against RGC coastal missile sites. Iran activates its fleeted 313 batteries. Al Udeid Air Base takes hits. The strait becomes a war zone, not a crisis zone. Oil prices do not spike 25%. They spike 80% within 48 hours. The Brent crude price crosses $180 per barrel. Global shipping insurance collapses entirely. The world's largest economies, the United States, China, the European Union, all enter emergency economic protocols simultaneously. Every day of full closure destroys an additional $1.6 billion of global trade. By day 30, the cumulative damage exceeds $600 billion. Several emerging market economies, dependent on fuel imports and already carrying high debt, face sovereign default cascades. This is not a regional conflict anymore. This is a global economic emergency triggered by 33 kilometers of contested water. The next 72 hours will determine which of these worlds we live in. Here is the revelation this entire video has been building toward. Iran does not expect to win a military confrontation with the United States Navy. It never did. The IRGC's internal strategic doctrine, portions of which have been analyzed by both the RAND Corporation and Israeli military intelligence, is not about military victory. It is about cost imposition. The goal is to make the price of forcing the strait open so high that Washington hesitates. Every hour of hesitation is an Iranian victory. Every % of oil price increase is an Iranian victory. Every shipping company that reroutes around the Cape of Good Hope, adding 15 days and $2 million to each voyage, is an Iranian victory. Iran has essentially placed an economic bomb beneath the world economy and handed the detonator to Washington. The United States has unmatched military power in the region. Nobody disputes that. But military power and economic power are different instruments. America can destroy Iran's naval forces within days. The mines, the missiles, the fast boats, all of it can be neutralized. But the oil does not start flowing again the moment the last Iranian boat sinks. Clearance operations take weeks. Insurance markets take longer to recover than physical infrastructure. Markets run on confidence, and confidence does not return by force. The clear loser in this scenario is the world economy, regardless of which nation wins the military exchange. The clear winner is whoever blinks last at the negotiating table. And in this contest of nerve, Iran has been practicing for 40 years. The Strait of Hormuz is closed today, but there is another choke point already under pressure, and most people have never heard its name. the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, connecting the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden, is already partially disrupted by Houthi operations. If both choke points close simultaneously, what happens to Asian economies that depend on both routes? What happens to Europe's energy supply in winter? Can the world reroute fast enough? Subscribe now and hit the notification bell because that video is coming next and you cannot afford to miss it.